I'm not sure there's any such thing as a bad time to eat a cookie, or even that there's a such thing as a bad cookie either. From the kind of most fancy, soft and chewy bakery cookies to the cheapest and crunchiest of supermarket fare. Even when they're bad, they're still pretty good. Today I want to share with you guys a recipe I've been fiddling around with for a little bit now to help you make a perfect batch of espresso, hazelnut and chocolate chunk cookies. A whisper of coffee, big chunky pieces of roasted hazelnut and generous melting little puddles of chocolate. Let's get into it. Our recipe begins, as all good recipes do, with a big hunkin' chunk of butter. Just pop it into a big old mixing bowl. Honestly, probably use one bigger than this because I've yet to buy one that's an appropriate size. To the butter, you want to add an equal weight of white and brown sugar. The white sugar adds just plain sweetness, and the brown sugar just helps add a little bit of moisture and flavour to that. Though using too much of either kind of offsets the balance, so using an equal measure of both is perfect. And using a big heavy wooden spoon or a spatula, just mix it until it's like a clumpy wet sand. You don't need to go crazy making it all fluffy. To this, just add 2 large eggs, one at a time. Adding them one after the other just makes it a little bit easier to mix in without making too much mess and to make sure there's no kind of lumpy bits in there. And just beat it just until they're combined. Again, you don't need to worry about mixing this for ages to make it fluffy, just until everything looks relatively smooth. Though at this point you may still see you have some kind of bitty pieces of sugar or some bitty pieces of butter. Don't worry too much about this. When we add the dry ingredients, everything will be fine. Speaking of those dry ingredients, we're going to get started with some flour. You can use plain flour, or like I am here, you can use some kind of 00 type flour, basically anything that doesn't have any racing agents or fancy grains inside it. And to that, you're going to add just a touch of ground espresso. Now, if you prefer a kind of milder flavour, you can actually pool, the liquid espresso, or use some granulated coffee mixed into a couple of tablespoons of boiling water, or you can just go straight in raw like I did for a slightly stronger flavour. To that, you're going to want to add a generous helping of salt. Generally, a good rule is to add a bit more than you think you need. Sweet things need just as much seasoning as savoury things do. And finally, we're going to add some lovely hazelnut chocolate. I found this big old bar in my local Lidl store, but you can use any kind of whole nut hazelnut chocolate that you like. Milk or dark, whichever is your preference. This one was dark. I just like the balance it has against a slightly sweeter dough. And this is basically just a kind of easier and slightly lazier, but also sometimes cheaper version of buying the chocolate and the hazelnuts separately and having to faff around with chopping both. With this, you have them in one package and you can just chop them together into big, generous chunks before mixing them into what is about to be some truly, truly addictive cookie dough. Just use your wooden spoon to kind of mix it gently together until it eventually becomes a wonderfully stiff and kind of malleable cookie dough. Now, you're going to want to stick that in the fridge for at least 1 hour, but up to a full 48 if you have both the time and patience, before you start looking out your trays to get them baking. I just use 2 kind of standard oven trays. If you have a big oven and some big trays, you can bake all the cookies at once if you like. Just make sure they're nice and spaced out. But I like to do mine in a couple of batches just to ensure they're even. Prepare your trays just by covering them with a little sheet of greaseproof paper or parchment paper, whatever you have handy. This just makes sure that they don't stick to the base of the tray because trust me, there's nothing more depressing. And all you need to do here is just get your clean hands into the bowl to roll some little balls of cookie dough, as small or as big as you like. Generally, mine start off quite small and become monstrously large, but that's fine. And at that point, just stick your cookies in the oven to bake for a few minutes until looking dry on the outside, but without any kind of hints of burntness around the edges, because no one needs that. And once they're ready, you should have some glorious, soft and chewy cookies with just a little whisper of coffee flavour, big generous chunks of both melting chocolate, depending on how warm you eat them, and crunchy hazelnuts. These are great for breakfast, they're great as a snack, they're great for introducing yourself into a new friend group when you need to impress people with anything but your social skills. I hope you love them as much as we have, and thank you as always for watching.